Waiting for a recession to come before you invest, or wondering how you should invest during a recession? Well, wait no more. We are not in a recession, my friends. We're not. Now, tepid growth is what we're dealing with for the quarter three, most likely, but this is not recessionary. Remember, recessionary is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. That's what we're in. So there's 2 things that I've been thinking about this a lot. That I hear so many people, I'm waiting to see what a recession happens. I'm waiting to invest before recession. I'm waiting for the I'm going to invest. How do I invest during a recession? You don't know if you're in a recession. We don't know. The only way you know is hindsight, looking back. And we know for a fact quarter 2 was not recessionary. It was not negative. It was positive. Quarter 3, while not be freaking 3% like we're hoping for, and be tepid, is still positive. Inherently, it's not recessionary. And there's a lot of numbers out there that, and for September, that don't look great, but they're not recessionary. And then, so are we in a recession now? No one knows, because recession can only happen in hindsight. We don't know if today, October 20th, October 21st, we're in a recession or not. Actually, we can say we literally are not in a recession right now. We are not in a recession. How do we know? Because the previous 2 quarters were positive growth. Now, we can look hindsight at the end of being in April of 2020 to say we were in a recession in October, but right now we're not. So you don't know. So stop investing as if recession, you're waiting for this recession to wean it, to show its ugly head. You don't know if it is, and by then it's too late. By the time they say, oh, turns out we were in a recession, we're already 6 months forward. But anyway, even that, here's my man Brian Westbury over at First Trust, who says the growth quarter 3 will be tepid around 1.8%. He says the government doesn't release its initial estimates on third quarter real GDP for another 9 days, but at this point we have enough facts and figures to make an educated guess it'll come in around 1.8%. Maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, so 1.5 to 2.5. That's not historically high, low. I mean, it's on the low end historically, sure, but it certainly isn't recessionary. And given that the economy grew at a tepid 2% in quarter 2, we're sure you'll hear plenty of angst about slow growth. But slow growth does not mean recession. Under Obama, he was the first president, I think, in history never to have a 3% growth under his watch or something. I can't remember. Maybe it was 2%. I can't remember. But it's just slow growth is not recessionary. Anyway, so productivity growth output per hour has picked up from where it was earlier in the expansion, in our view, due to tax cuts and deregulation, and so growth is positioned to reaccelerate. We'll see. I don't even care. It's not recessionary. Stop waiting to invest as if recession is coming. There is no indication at all a recession is here. It's certainly not here now. It's not coming. So if we are at the end of Q3, which we are, because October, November, December is Q4, we had no recession in Q1. We had positive growth Q1, positive growth Q2, positive growth Q3. So when are you going to invest if it is that you're waiting for a recession? We haven't had it. We're not having it. We might look in hindsight and say we had it, but by then what are you going to do? You're going to jump out and say, oh, now that we knew the last 6 months were recessionary, I'm going to jump back in the market? Well, it's too late then. So anyway, car and truck sales grew at 0.2%. Business investment was mostly offset by declines in commercial construction. Combined business investment grew. Again, the growing is not declining. Home building, residential construction has been flat to negative in each of the past 6 quarters, and it looks like Q3 is no different. Likely coming in at 0 change for the quarter. That said, we expect a turnaround in the quarters ahead as home builders are still constructing too few homes given population growth and the scrappage of older homes. Again, 0% growth is not recessionary. Government looks like a relatively small 0.6 increase in real public sector purchases in Q3, which would add 1.1 point to the real GDP growth. Again, growth is not recessionary. Trade. Net exports' effect on GDP has been very volatile in the past year, probably because of companies front running and then living with tariffs and hopefully temporary trade barriers. We expect net exports to add 0.7 points to the GDP growth rate in Q1, or net exports added 0.7 to the GDP growth in Q1, then subtracted 0.7 in Q2. We're expecting a 0.4% drag in Q3. So that would be recessionary. So we got, of the 30 things we talked about so far, home building, business investment, consumption's up, Let's see. Consumption grew up 2.6%. That grows. It's not recessionary. Business investment grew. Not recessionary. Home building was 0. Not recessionary. Government grew at 0.6. That's not recessionary. Trade is down 0.4. That is recessionary. Inventories. We would add 2 points to real GDP growth. That's not 0.2 points to real GDP growth. That's not recessionary. Add it all up, we get 1.8% annualized real GDP growth. That's not recessionary. Slow growth and recessionary are two different things. Stop the nonsense. All right, we'll see you.